You've been chasing something your entire life, and somewhere beneath the drive, you already know that getting it won't fix the thing you think it will. But you chase it anyway. You work the hours nobody else will. You sacrifice the things that can't be unsacrificed. You tell yourself it will all be worth it when you arrive. And then, one day, you do. You get the promotion, the contract, the number in the account. People shake your hand and tell you that you made it. You smile because that's what's expected. And then, you go home. You sit in the silence of the thing you earned, and you wait for the feeling to arrive. The joy, the relief, the vindication you were promised. But the room stays quiet. There's something there, yes, but it's not what you expected. It's a flicker, not a flame. A brief warmth that fades before you can hold it. And underneath the flicker, something else. A hollowness you weren't prepared for. You wonder if you did something wrong. Maybe you didn't want it enough. Maybe you wanted it for the wrong reasons. Maybe this particular success was the wrong mountain. So you set your sights on the next one. You tell yourself that one will be different. That summit will hold the feeling this one couldn't. But a small part of you already knows. It won't. Because the problem was never the mountain. The problem is what happens in your brain the moment you reach the top. And that's where the real mechanism begins. There's a name for what just happened to you. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. And it explains why everything you've ever achieved left you hungry again. Here's how the machinery works. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. And alive means never satisfied for long. A satisfied animal stops hunting. A satisfied animal gets eaten. So evolution built you a brain that treats contentment like a threat. The moment you win, your neurochemistry begins to shift. Dopamine, the chemical that made you chase the prize, starts to drop. Not because something went wrong, because the system is working exactly as designed. Your baseline happiness has a set point. Win the lottery, and within months you'll feel roughly the same as before. Lose a limb, and within a year your happiness often returns to baseline. The research is brutal. Your circumstances change, but you adapt. And adaptation is the enemy of lasting satisfaction. This is why the new house feels like home after 6 weeks. Why the promotion feels ordinary after 3 months. Why the relationship that once electrified you now feels like routine. The brain recalibrates. What was extraordinary becomes expected. What was expected becomes invisible. And invisible can't make you feel anything. So the brain does what it's programmed to do. It looks for the next thing. The promotion you just got is already old news. Now your eyes move to the office down the hall, the one with the better view, the one you'll feel nothing in after 90 days. This is the treadmill. Not a failure of willpower, not a flaw in your character, a feature, not a bug. You were built to want more because more kept your ancestors alive. But now that same wiring has a new problem. The targets never stop moving. Picture the goal you've been chasing for years, the promotion, the income bracket, the house with the view. You can see it clearly from where you stand now. It looks fixed, solid, permanent. But here's what nobody tells you about finish lines. They move. Not obviously, not dramatically, just enough that you don't notice until you arrive. You wanted the manager title, until you got it. Then you noticed the director had a bigger office. You wanted the corner office, until you were in it. Then you learned the C-suite has its own floor. The goal didn't change, your proximity to it did. And somehow, that made it smaller. This happens with everything. The car you dreamed about at 20 feels ordinary at 30. The salary that seemed impossible now barely covers what you think you need. The relationship that once thrilled you now feels like furniture. You didn't become harder to please. The target just learned to stay ahead. Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy, the mistaken belief that reaching the destination will finally make you happy. But there is no destination. There never was. The finish line exists only as long as you haven't crossed it. Cross it, and it reappears further ahead. Not because life is cruel, but because you were never chasing the thing itself. You were chasing how you imagined the thing would make you feel. And feelings don't work that way. They're not a reward you collect at the end. They're a wave that passes through and leaves. The achievement stays. The feeling goes. And so you set another target, certain that this time will be different. But somewhere beneath that certainty, a question starts to form. If the goal isn't the point, what exactly are you running toward? Here's a truth most driven people will never admit. They're not running toward anything. They're running from. The relentless pursuit of more is rarely about wanting more. It's about needing less of something else. Less of the feeling that creeps in when you stop. Less of the voice that speaks when the room gets quiet. Achievement, it turns out, makes an excellent anesthetic. When you're chasing, you can't feel. When you're climbing, you can't think. When you're winning, you can't remember. The busy mind is a protected mind. This is why high achievers often describe rest as unbearable. Not because they love work so much, but because they fear stillness more. Stillness is where the feelings live, the ones you've been too busy to notice. Psychologists have a term for this: experiential avoidance. The use of constant activity to escape difficult internal states. But here's the part they don't tell you. What you run from doesn't get tired. You do. The feeling you're avoiding doesn't wait patiently at the finish line. It travels with you. It's there in the hotel room after the keynote. It's there in the silence after the applause. It's there every time you achieve something and feel nothing. This is the structure of escape. The faster you run, the faster it follows. The more you achieve, the louder the silence becomes when you stop. Think about what drives you. Not what you tell yourself, but what actually makes you move. Is it excitement about what you're building? Or terror about what happens if you stop? The honest answer is uncomfortable. Because many of the most driven people aren't moving toward their dreams. They're fleeing their own interior. Every promotion is another mile between you and the feeling you can't name. Every new goal is another wall between you and the silence. This is what makes ambition so seductive. It offers a socially acceptable way to avoid yourself. No one questions the workaholic's devotion. They admire it. But admiration doesn't heal what made you run in the first place. That's the trap. The world rewards you for the very thing that's destroying you. And somewhere, buried beneath all that relentless motion, there's a question you've never let yourself ask. What happened that made you believe you had to earn your right to exist? For most people, the wound happened before they had words for it. A child doesn't get told they're unlovable. They feel it in the silence, in the way a parent turns away at the wrong moment, in the praise that only came when something was achieved, in the warmth that vanished the moment they stopped performing. The message lands in the body long before the mind can name it, and the message is simple. You are what you produce. Your worth is not inherent. It must be proven again and again. Maybe it was a parent who only noticed excellence, someone whose love felt conditional on your last report card, or a parent so disappointed in their own life that you inherited their unlived dreams. You became the vessel for everything they never accomplished. Their pride in you felt less like love and more like relief. Maybe it was a parent who simply wasn't there, absent in body or present but emotionally unreachable. And the child thought, if I'm impressive enough, maybe they'll finally see me. Achievement becomes a language you learn to speak fluently, because it was the only language that ever got a response. Or maybe it wasn't a parent at all. Maybe it was a classroom where you learned that your intelligence was your only currency. A playground where being useful was the only way to belong. A moment where you suddenly understood that just being yourself wasn't enough. That moment becomes a verdict you spend the rest of your life appealing. The problem is, you won the case decades ago. But no one told the child inside you. They're still performing for a parent who stopped watching years ago. Still trying to earn love from someone who may no longer be alive. The wound is old, but the strategy is current. You're still running the program that was installed before you could choose. And here's what makes it so hard to see. The program worked. You achieved things other people only dream about. The strategy got you somewhere, but it also got you nowhere you actually wanted to be. Because you were never chasing a destination. You were fleeing a feeling. The feeling that if you ever stopped, you'd have to meet the person you've been running from. And that person has been waiting a very long time. The question isn't whether ambition is good or bad. The question is whether your ambition is moving towards something or away from something it can never escape. There are two kinds of fire. One keeps you warm. The other consumes everything it touches. Ambition works the same way. Healthy ambition feels like expansion. You pursue something because it genuinely excites you. The work itself feels like the reward. You can take a day off without feeling like you're falling behind. You celebrate other people's wins without doing the private math. Wounded ambition feels completely different. It feels like running. There's an urgency underneath every achievement, a hunger that doesn't recognize food. You accomplish things not because they call to you, but because stillness is unbearable. The finish line isn't something you're chasing, it's something you're using to keep distance from yourself. Here's a way to tell the difference. Healthy ambition survives failure. When the project collapses, you feel disappointed, but still intact. Wounded ambition treats failure as annihilation. The project wasn't just something you were doing, it was the only thing holding your identity together. Healthy ambition can rest. The vacation feels like a vacation. Wounded ambition brings the laptop to the beach. It can't stop, because stopping means feeling whatever it's been avoiding. Healthy ambition coexists with connection. You show up for the people you love without calculating the opportunity cost. Wounded ambition sacrifices relationships on an altar nobody asked you to build. It tells itself the sacrifice is noble, but the people left behind know the truth. The hardest part of recognizing wounded ambition is that it looks exactly like strength. Society rewards the symptoms. It calls the exhaustion dedication, the loneliness focus, the emptiness drive. It puts the wound on magazine covers and calls it inspiration. But the body knows. The insomnia knows. The jaw pain knows. The third drink at lunch knows. Somewhere beneath all the accomplishments, a quieter voice is asking a question it's terrified to hear answered. What happens if I stop? The question terrifies you because you suspect you already know the answer. Nothing happens, and that's exactly what you've been running from. Stillness feels like death because somewhere along the way you learned that rest was just failure in a more comfortable chair. So you fill every silence with plans, every weekend with projects, every vacation with the laptop you swore you'd leave behind. The first step off the treadmill isn't a grand gesture. It's learning to sit with the panic that rises when you have nothing to do. Not to push through it, not to fix it, just to let it be there. You'll want to reach for your phone, check your email, start a list, anything to escape the unbearable weight of having nothing to prove in this moment. Don't. Stay in the discomfort until you can hear what it's actually saying. Usually, it's saying something you decided long ago wasn't safe to feel. Grief, maybe, for the childhood spent earning love instead of receiving it. Anger, perhaps, at a world that taught you your worth had conditions attached. Or loneliness, the kind that no amount of applause ever touched. These feelings don't need to be fixed. They need to be witnessed. And here's the secret no productivity guru will ever tell you. You can tolerate more stillness than you think. The panic peaks, and then it passes. What remains isn't emptiness, it's space. Space to ask a question you've been too busy to hear. What do I actually want? Not what would impress your father, not what would silence your critics, not what would prove the doubters wrong. What do you, stripped of all the performance, actually want? The answer might be smaller than you expected. A slower morning, an unscheduled afternoon, a relationship you're actually present for. It might be larger, a complete departure from the path you've been climbing without ever asking where it leads. Either way, the goal changes. From proving you're enough to finally believing it. And then, only then, ambition stops being a wound and becomes a choice. You can still want things. You just no longer need them to prove you deserve to exist. The hunger finally ends not when you achieve enough, but when you stop using achievement as evidence.